Jen Willis is more former member. I don't know if she's still a member of RWU, but a lot of railroad workers are fearful of calling OSHA and getting OSHA involved for fear of retaliation. And you know, I think that's a general problem. People are afraid to call OSHA for fear that they'll get fired, even if they have a union. Yeah. And the other issue is AFGE represents OSHA employees, and in the Whistleblower Protection Program, Darrell Whitman was an OSHA lawyer and investigator, and he found out that, in fact, in a lot of cases that he was handling, including railroad cases, top management in OSHA were colluding with the FedEx and other companies, Wells Fargo, to really not proceed with merit determinations, which would get these workers their jobs back. Do you think there's a problem of coercion by companies in OSHA for them not to do their job when workers file complaints?
Well, as a former top official in OSHA, I'd say no. Well, let me start with the first part of your question here. Yeah, workers are. I mean, you're right. I mean, workers are afraid often to file OSHA complaints or talk back to management or participate in the health and safety system or even report injuries because they're afraid of being fired, and they're afraid for good reason because they do get fired and they do get punished for that. OSHA has a whistleblower program. It's basically it's about 2 sentences in paragraph 11C of the Occupational Safety and Health Act that was passed in 1970. It's really weak. Since that time, Congress has created a whole number of other whistleblower laws, including the FRSA, which they've given them all to OSHA. They did not give to OSHA the funding to accompany that. So you ended up with OSHA basically administering 22 different whistleblower laws without hardly any funding to do that. When we got there, not only that, but administratively it was kind of buried in our enforcement system. It didn't have a separate budget. So we made that a priority and pulled it out of the enforcement program, gave it its own directorate, its own budget, its own high-level executive, and tried to put more money into it, which we are somewhat successful at, but of course that's up to Congress. Made some major improvements in the program, but I always like to say we made some major improvements in the program, but we were starting at such a low level, it was kind of like we made it from the end zone to about the 30-yard line, and we still have 70 yards to go to really make it a program where I could stand in front of a bunch of workers and say, don't worry ever about being retaliated against because OSHA will take care of it. OSHA just really doesn't have the staff and to a certain extent the strength of the laws to do that. So you have a situation where there was an incredible backlog. I mean, we did manage to deal with that. And the backlog meant that sometimes people went, including Wells Fargo, went years without OSHA paying attention to the case they had filed, and you've heard the phrase "justice delayed is justice denied." Nowhere is that more relevant than in somebody gets fired from their job and has to wait 3 years for OSHA to make some kind of determination, and even that determination may not be favorable. Even if it is, if the company challenges it, depending on the strength of the law, it can be years or never before that actually gets up to a situation where it's where it's decided. So we had a lot of problems with that program, no doubt about it. And on the Wells Fargo situation, I mean, there was a Wells Fargo case where, you probably heard about this, where Wells Fargo was basically telling their employees to open up as many accounts as they could for employees, and they actually started opening up fake accounts. And some of the workers who complained about that and then got disciplined for it filed complaints with OSHA. Unfortunately, very few, and we didn't certainly notice what was going on. And some of those cases actually took years to get to too, which was sort of inexcusable. But anyway, that's that was sort of the situation with the whistleblower program.
Darrell Whitman, you know about the case of Darrell?
Oh yeah.
What he was fired.
Well, I still can't talk about it. That was a personnel issue.
You're not in the government anymore.
I'm still not going to talk about personnel issues. It's still a live case.